It's 88.5 KCSN Sky Daniels. Now this is going to be a treat.
I can't wait.
Well, you're part of it
myself.
You're part of it too.
What's going to happen?
Actually, you know what? You're the majority of it. It's
Let's
Paul
go.
Shaffer, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. They're fun to be here.
How are you, you kooky cat?
Very well. I'm here on a heat wave day.
Oof. I'm sorry.
Loving it. My feet were sticking to the asphalt on the way in here.
Now, if you were in Midtown, you literally would stick to the asphalt.
Yes,
if it
I
was
know.
this hot. I
know.
remember
Fun to be
well.
here, though. Nice to
Well,
be
it's
here.
great to have you out here. Paul Shaffer, as all of us know, a celebrated musician, and you've done so much. And of course, people know you from your long tenure working with the world's most dangerous band,
Yes.
And being a key and vital member of The Late Show with David Letterman. Let's go back to this is the tour you're on now with the world's most dangerous band. Is this really your first full-fledged tour since you went out with the Blues Brothers?
Well, yes, I've been a studio musician all these years, whether it be a recording studio or a television studio, in the case of Letterman. 33 years with Letterman.
Wow.
First 5 years of Saturday Night Live and the house band and stuff. So, yes, I haven't traveled.
Wow.
I have been a spoiled studio musician and would come into work at Letterman every day and all my stuff already set up. What a luxury, Piano in the same place every day. Terrific.
And I might add that unlike this performance, where you had to come out of the 108-degree temperature, it was never 108 when you played on the
Well, it
Letterman
was
show.
notoriously cold in there, and one would think I could handle it, being from northern Canada,
Yes.
as I was, and playing in a rock band during high school, and we had a regular Saturday night gig at the hockey arena. The Fort William Gardens, where they would put this is probably common in Canada and northern, places like Minneapolis too. Plywood down on the ice, and they would put up a stage, and we would have a dance in there in the arena, and kids would come. You couldn't take off your parkas, though, because it was so cold, So you're like dancing and trying to be cool in a parka. But I will tell you, I said Minneapolis because it reminded me of going to the club where they made Purple Rain. I can't remember if it's called the First Avenue or something,
yes,
And in the movie, it was just the coolest, and the chicks are dressed up and everything, and the high heels and silk stockings, and guys in cummerbunds, and you go there for real, and they got their ski jackets and parkas on. It's Minneapolis. It's freezing cold. They're dancing in these parkas, and, how cool can you be, really? So I overcame that only to find David Letterman's studio was down at about 44 degrees. And yes, he used to say it keeps the comedy fresh. But I'll tell you, it was hard to play. I finally got radiant heaters, like in a restaurant in Malibu, overhead radiant heat for the band. Otherwise, we couldn't even play.
Your fingers would lock
And
up.
I was at Colbert Show just yesterday. I appeared on Stephen Colbert Show for the first time. What an experience, being back in the building.
That's weird when you go back to a place that's been your home. And I've had a similar experience where I've gone back to either record companies I worked at or radio stations I worked at where, you're sitting out at the reception desk and going, I got to wait. I used to just walk right in.
Go in, yeah, exactly. Well, you have to follow protocol. Usually you're just ready to go down. I'll go down in the booth and check the sound. I'll be up. I'll see you up. No, we had to wait. I'll show you down to the control room. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, please show me the way. It was yes, we were there for 22 years. And they were all saying, ooh, Stephen keeps the studio cold. But I go in there, it's like tropical, compared to Dave, the way he had it. It was very comfortable.
So you mentioned Canada, and you start out in Canada. Originally, you were doing as I know the story, you were doing a version of Godspell.
Yes, this is correct.
And there were a number of names that we would all come to know and love in the cast with you. Can you remember some of them?
Godspell, of course, was a 70s rock musical, off-Broadway hit, companies all over the world, one in Toronto. All of us, I was the band leader in it. I got hired just on a fluke, like Lana Turner being discovered in Schwab's. Steve Schwartz was the composer. He came up to cast his final cast for this show up there, and he hired me. Let me talk to the piano player. He liked the way I played his song. Somebody auditioned with one of his songs. I was audition pianist. I got hired that day too. But as well as me, he hired Martin Short, Eugene Levy, Dave Thomas, Andrea Martin, all of them brilliant on SCTV, of
Right.
course, in later years. The late Gilda Radner, brilliant. Victor Garber, we know revered as a straight actor now. All these people in the same cast, and it was our first job, and we hung out incessantly, and we talked about nothing but show business and old-fashioned show business. And Godspell was a kind of a show that had a little bit of a corny, sweet edge to it, but kids could put in their own shtick. And that's what these guys did up in Canada. Marty was doing Sinatra, as the entr'acte and stuff. In Godspell, Andrea taught everybody how to be funny. She was so brilliantly hilarious. And we're all still best friends to this day. As a matter of fact, I'm playing, I don't know when this is going to play, our interview, but I'm playing this Saturday night, the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills. Martin Short is coming by, my special guest. He's going to come on with me and do a few numbers with the band, and Valerie Simpson travels with me, another soul legend.
Oh.
So this is like, it's an all-star thing.
Why don't you tinkle the ivories
All right.
and break one out that we know? Give them an example of the spontaneity of Mr. Paul Shaffer.
Well, all right. Well, you hit me with a setup. You tell me what you want to hear, or I'll answer a question musically, whatever you say.
You mentioned something that you saw my reaction when you said that you got to play with the great Burt Bacharach.
Ah.
Can you offer a Burt Bacharach piano number that you know?
Yes. All I remember, I'm coming into the studio, and this is like 74, and I hear him saying to the producer, who was Phil Ramone, he said, "Yeah, I think Angie's going to win an Emmy for a policewoman." That places it in the era. He was married to Angie Dickinson, the actress at the time. Well, I love all the Burt Bacharach songs like this. Don't make me over now that I've do anything for you. All right, I'm already out of
Okay, well, that was okay, because listen.
Don't make me over. This is a great chord. Da 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 da. Accept me for what I am. Accept me for the things that I do. Okay, that's pretty.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. This is the kind of fun that we know if you head out to the Saban Theater. The Saban Theater, it's funny. It's wonderfully. It's a wonderful and beautiful theater in Beverly Hills, right off Rodeo Drive. And I remember, and it's an earlier incarnation, seeing the great Tom Waits perform there. And Tom Waits came up with a line that to this day sticks in memory when he was talking about this wonderful hall right there in the heart of Beverly Hills. Mm-hmm. He said, "Oh, it's always great to be back at this theater. It holds a particular place in my heart. Right down the street on Rodeo Drive, there's an apothecary that has a wonderful men's hand emollient I can't find anywhere else." And I thought,
good for him.
That's really not the typical stage manner that you hear at a rock show.
Right in character,
but that's Tom Waits for
I love it.
And I would assume that the audience that's going to see you Saturday night, it's going to hear some of the great music classics and a band that we've learned that plays with such zeal and passion and style. But it's also going to have a bunch of laughs.
There are some things that people laugh at, yes. Very gratifying to me, of course. I mentioned Don Rickles in the show just because he was always toasting in his Vegas show. May you be as old and may you live to be as old and a thing and Aziz and Pesach. And then he'd take, and I realized it just gives him a minute to have a sip of water. You need it.
Right.
And then I was remembering the first time he did Letterman, and he was so funny, of course, and he turned to me and he said, "Paul," and I was so thrilled that he must have been watching the show. He knew who I was.
He
said,
acknowledged
"Paul."
you.
Yeah, he said, "Paul, have yourself committed." And I'm telling you, there's nothing more flattering than when Don Rickles knows your name and tells you to check into a mental institution.
Those are
Thank you, Don.
the affirmation that we all seek in life, isn't it? Have yourself committed.
I had it.
Why don't you give us a sample of one of what you've discovered is your favorites that you perform with the full band, of course, at the Saban Theater this coming Saturday night. Is there one song in a set that early on you're starting to really find moves the crowd?
Oh, that I do now. Well, I mean, I do one of the tunes that I do on the record,
Right.
By Georgie fame. You know,
Oh.
he had one big, huge hit. I recorded with him.
Two.
Well, of course.
Ballad of Bonnie and Clyde,
Oh,
too.
that
Don't
was a
forget that.
huge record. Yes, but I don't count that.
Yeah, 'cause-
I like the hip jazz
Oh,
Georgie
I'm with you.
fame.
I'm with you,
One
man.
of his Getaway, that was a kind of a hit for him.
Yeah.
I know a little place. Anyway, I recorded his big one. And this is originally a Mongo Santa Maria Latin jazz instrumental. Well, every evening when all my days were through, I call my baby and ask her what we can do. I mentioned movies, but she said, maybe not. And then she asked me, why don't I come to her spot and have some dinner? And if we got time to kill, we'll turn the phone off so we can Netflix and chill. I say, yeah, yeah. That's what I say. I say, yeah, yeah. That's what I say. I say, yeah, yeah. That's what I say. I say, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You know, I forgot, Paul, that it was Georgie Fame that introduced the word Netflix to the lexicon.
Well, we had to rewrite it. Those weren't his lyrics, but his lyric was something about we'll turn on a groovy hi-fi. And I said, I can't sing that.
Yeah,
In
you
this-
could though.
In the modern,
Paul,
well, I could have.
You're
gotten
cool
away with
enough.
it.
You could nail that
thank you,
line.
thank you for that.
You
vote of
could nail that line.
vote
You-
of confidence.
You kooky cat. You.
Sweet of you.
I'm looking at the record, and,
Yeah.
and you have a lot of friends, and they are of a varying variety of musicians.
All kinds of people said yes when I asked them
Shaggy?
if they would. Shaggy, a new friend who does a dance hall Jamaican kind of treatment of Cast Your Fate to the Wind. The old Vince Guaraldi standard.
I always heard
but
it.
he takes it to Jamaica. Wait till you hear it. It's
I always heard that.
you
in
heard
my
it that
mind.
way, yes.
You got Darius Rucker, who's another one of the great fun guys to be around.
And an old friend from when he used to do Hootie and the Bullfish band on Letterman. Letterman may have discovered him. And he does a great take on Why Can't We Live Together from the 70s.
Timmy Thomas.
A great, a sentiment that we need today just as much.
Someone who may be listening right now as we're on the air because she's a big fan of the station, Jenny Lewis.
Well, she was incredible. Billy Murray introduced me to her when he cast her in his Netflix, speaking of, Netflix Christmas show, Very Murray Christmas. And she sang a duet with him, and she sang that great song by the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York. And I just said, she can do anything. And then everybody wanted to work with her. Richie Gadar was my producer. I mean, I know you know him. He said, do you think you could get Jenny Lewis for the... I said, I just met her, and she was nice enough to come down and do that great song, Sorrow, that Gadar wrote with his partners for the McCoys and then covered by Bowie and stuff like that. And she liked the gender ambiguity of it. The girl singing it.
You remind me with Richard Gadar the same way. For those of us of a certain age and a certain musical leaning, Richard Gadar, the early Sire records, it seemed as if every punk and new wave band that I was discovering, Richard Gadar was either producing or engineering or having some part in. And when you go back and when you're a fan that's absorbing this music as it's coming and you have the benefit of time and you look back and you realize, oh my gosh, what an era, what an iconic era. And both Seymour and Richard, part of that, and you're friends with these guys.
Yes, and I grill them for details about rock history whenever I'm with them. I used to work for Richie when I was a studio player, and he was producing acts like Hawley and the Italians. Was a record I made with him, and then I played on a great one by Joan Armatrading that he produced. So I was working for him as a sideman, and when I got to do this record, I thought of him right away, especially because he and Seymour are so tight, and he just he was a lot of fun in the studio. And he's also the guy who put on a loincloth and pretended to be Australian and saying, "I want candy," by the Strangeloves, and it was 3 Jews from the Bronx. They weren't from Australia.
And they sold it.
That's right. And they sold, well, there's a loincloth and those big hairy drums that they used to play, that they rented from the musical instrument place. And,
I knew this was going to be a great afternoon.
well, we could go and go and go.
I mean, see, you're bringing up this beautiful, these great arcane moments that I live for and this
Yeah.
audience lives for, sharing together. Why don't you play one more for us before we let you get out of here? And we want to remind everybody about the show one more time.
There's a little bit of a song I used to play as a child. It was one of my concert pieces. It was a record made here in Los Angeles by Kim Fowley, and the band was called Bee Bumble and the Stingers, and this was very influential among the British groups with keyboard players like Rod Argent. You know, all these English bands with their keyboard virtuosi learned this song, and it's of course called Nut Rocker.
Bravo, bravo.
That's it, Nut Rocker.
That is the great Paul Shaffer.
One of my favorites. Thank you.
He's going to be bringing together the world's most dangerous band as we've come to know him and love him throughout the years. It is his first full-fledged tour since the Blues Brothers. It is an event that is not to be missed, and it's this Saturday night.
Valerie Simpson,
at the
special
Saban-
guest,
Oh.
and a surprise guest, Martin Short, coming out of the woodwork to come down and do a number with me and the world's most dangerous band. Not to be missed.
This is where I know there's going to be a lot of passion and a lot of good times,
You
too.
know it.
It is a Saturday night good time guaranteed fest. It's not to be missed. Saturday night at the Saban Theater in beautiful Beverly Hills at the beautiful Saban Theater.
Beautiful.
And I don't know how cold the temperature is in that particular room, but you'll find out.
It's going to be comfortable.
You're going to warm it up, whatever
You
it
can take
is.
that, once we go on.
Whatever
it
is
ain't going to be
going
no
in.
44 degrees.
Right.
Believe
It
me.
won't stay there. It'll be
Although
much
out
hotter.
here we need it. No, I take it back. It's going to be cool as a cucumber.
Right.
Come on down.
It's like the old theaters when we were kids. Come on in. It's cool
It's
inside.
cool in here. Yes.
They had the icicles.
Exactly. Bringing those days back.
Well, we're going to bring it back this Saturday night. Paul, great seeing you again.
A lot of fun. Thank
and
you.
great having you out here and sharing the time with us. And we're glad that you are doing what you said, which we will call the theme of both today's session, this tour, and your life. And it is, while I still can, let me rock.
Thank you. Please allow me to do so. And you continue doing so yourself, man. Terrific to see you.
It's Paul Shaffer live on 88.5 KCSN.